The silence in the Grand Judgment Hall was absolute. 300 species held their breath as the massive doors parted, and 3 humans walked into the most powerful courtroom in the known universe. Ambassador Thomas Hawley had prepared for this moment his entire career, but nothing could have readied him for the scale of what he now witnessed. The chamber stretched upward for nearly a kilometer, its walls lined with floating platforms where representatives of every major civilization watched with eyes. Sensors and organs humanity had no names for. Bioluminescent creatures pulsed with agitation. Crystalline beings refracted the chamber's light into warning patterns. Massive insectoid delegates clicked their mandibles in what Thomas could only interpret as disapproval. At the center of it all, 7 figures sat upon thrones carved from asteroids. The High Tribunal of the Galactic Confederation. The beings who had ruled over 10,000 worlds for longer than humanity had possessed written language. Supreme Arbiter Kolveth rose from his central throne. He was tall and angular, his silver skin reflecting the chamber's lights like polished metal. When he spoke, translation devices throughout the hall converted his words into 17,000 languages simultaneously. Species: designation human, origin world Earth, provisional, member status pending review. His voice carried no emotion, only cold authority. You stand accused of the highest crime recognized by galactic law. Violation of the Sacred Preservation Mandate. Unauthorized interaction with Protectorate artifacts. Awakening of a Class 7 extinction-level weapon system. Thomas felt the weight of those words pressing against his chest. Behind him, billions of humans went about their daily lives, completely unaware that their existence as a spacefaring species was about to be decided in this room. The evidence has been reviewed, Kolveth continued. Visual recordings confirm that a human citizen made physical contact with a dormant guardian on the restricted world Verith 9. This contact resulted in the reactivation of systems that have remained safely offline for 9,000 years. A holographic display flickered to life at the chamber's center. Thomas watched as the recording played, showing a woman in a mechanic's jumpsuit touching the massive form of an ancient machine. The image was grainy, captured by automated monitoring systems, but there was no mistaking what it showed. The penalty for this violation, Kolveth said, is permanent species quarantine. Your homeworld will be enclosed within a containment field. No vessel will enter or leave. Your species will be isolated from galactic civilization for the remainder of its existence. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some delegates seemed pleased by this pronouncement. Others appeared uncertain. Thomas stepped forward. His voice was steady, despite the fear coursing through him. Honored Tribunal, the Confederation Charter grants any accused species the right to present mitigating evidence before sentencing. We invoke that right. Kolveth's silver face revealed nothing. You have this right. You have until the 3rd rotation of Varath's primary star to present your evidence. Approximately 52 standard hours. That is not sufficient time to? It is the time granted by law. Use it as you will. Kolveth gestured toward a smaller door at the chamber's edge. You may prepare your defense in the allocated facilities. This session is suspended. As the tribunal rose and the chamber began to empty, Thomas caught the eye of one of the other human delegates. Maria Costa, his chief advisor, looked pale but determined. 52 hours, she whispered. How are we supposed to explain 9 months of events in 52 hours? Thomas watched the alien representatives filing out of the chamber, most of them avoiding even looking at the humans. We start at the beginning. We tell them about Lily Okonkwo, and we pray they understand. 9 months earlier, the cargo hauler Northern Star had been running a routine supply mission to the outer colonies when everything changed. Lily Okonkwo was the ship's senior mechanic. She was 34 years old Born in Lagos, trained in the orbital shipyards of Luna, her hands had fixed everything from fusion, reactors to food processors over her 15 years in space. She had a gift for understanding machines, for sensing what was wrong with them before diagnostics could even identify the problem. Captain Raymond Marsh trusted her completely. When the Northern Star's navigation systems detected an anomalous energy signature near the Verith system, he asked for her opinion first. "It's a distress signal," Lily said, studying the readout on her console. "But the frequency is strange. Not like anything in our databases." "The Verith system is restricted," First Officer Anita Rowe pointed out. "Preservation zone. We're not even supposed to be scanning in this direction." "The signal is coming from Verith 9, Lily continued as if she had not heard. "A desert world. No known inhabitants." Captain Marsh frowned. The preservation zones were serious business. The Galactic Confederation had established them centuries ago to protect artifacts left behind by a long-vanished civilization called the Protectorate. No species was permitted to enter these zones under any circumstances, but a distress signal was a distress signal. "Can you identify the source?" Marsh asked. Lily's fingers moved across her console. "Based on the signal pattern, it appears to be coming from one of the Guardians." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew about the Guardians. They were legendary weapons created by the Protectorate during some ancient war. Massive constructs of unknown technology, capable of destroying entire fleets. The Confederation had sealed them away precisely because they were so dangerous. "That's impossible," Rose said. "The Guardians are dormant. They don't send signals. This one does." Lily looked up from her console. "And Captain, if I'm reading this right, it's not just sending a distress signal. It's asking for help." What followed was a decision that would change everything. Captain Marsh, against all protocol and common sense, ordered the Northern Star to investigate. They entered the Verith system under the cover of a sensor malfunction, hoping to identify the signal source and report it to proper authorities. They never expected to find what they found. The Guardian lay half buried in crimson sand, a mountain of metal and crystal that stretched 300 meters into the sky. Even dormant, even damaged, it radiated a presence that made Lily's heart race. This was not just a machine. This was something more. Against explicit orders to remain on the ship, Lily took a shuttle to the surface. She told herself she just wanted to see it up close. Just wanted to understand what could create such a signal. When she touched the Guardian's outer hull, the universe shifted. Information flooded her mind. Images, emotions, memories that were not her own. She saw the Void War, the ancient conflict that had nearly extinguished all life in the galaxy. She saw the Guardians standing against the darkness, sacrificing themselves by the thousands. And she saw this particular Guardian, designated 17, taking a wound meant for a civilian transport, saving millions of lives before crashing on this forgotten world. For 9,000 years, 17 had lain here, not dormant as the Confederation believed, but paralyzed. A critical system failure had left it conscious but unable to move, unable to call for help in any language the younger species could understand. Until now. "Please," the Guardian's voice whispered in her mind. "I do not wish to die alone." Lily pulled her hand away, gasping for breath. The desert wind howled around her. Above, the Northern Star shuttle waited to take her back to safety, back to a universe where ancient weapons stayed silent and mechanics did not hear the prayers of dying gods. She looked at the Guardian, at the fading light in its crystalline eyes, at 9,000 years of loneliness written in every damaged circuit. Then she opened her toolkit. Aboard the Northern Star, Captain Marsh watched his sensor displays with growing horror as preservation monitors throughout the system activated. Automated systems designed to detect any unauthorized contact with protected artifacts or lighting up one by one. "Lily," he said into his communicator. "Lily, you need to get back to the ship, now." No response. On the surface of Vareth 9, Lily Okonkwo had already begun the work that would bring humanity to the edge of extinction. Her hands moved across damaged circuits with practiced precision. Her mind connected with the Guardian's consciousness, learning its systems, understanding its pain. She knew she was being watched. She knew the consequences of what she was doing. But she also knew something the Confederation had forgotten in all their centuries of careful preservation. Some things are more important than rules, and some machines deserve to be saved. Lily worked through the night without stopping. The desert wind carried particles of red sand that stung her exposed skin, but she barely noticed. Her entire focus was on the damaged neural pathway buried deep within the Guardian's chest. 9,000 years of decay had corroded the connections between 17's mind and body. The ancient machine could think, could feel, could suffer, but it could not move a single limb. "I need you to lower your defensive barriers in Section 7, Lily said aloud, though she knew the Guardian could hear her thoughts through their neural link. A pulse of acknowledgement flowed through her mind, warmth and gratitude, and something that felt almost like hope. 17 had not experienced hope in millennia. On the Northern Star, Captain Marsh faced an impossible choice. Preservation monitors had detected Lily's presence on the surface. Within hours, Confederation enforcement vessels would arrive. If Marsh fled now, he might save his ship and crew. But he would be abandoning Lily to face judgment alone. "We should go," First Officer Rowe said quietly. She knew the rules. She broke them anyway. Marsh stared at the holographic display, showing Lily's position on the planet below. A single human figure next to a mountain of ancient metal. So small, so determined. "Set a standard orbit," he said finally. "We stay." "Captain, when the Confederation arrives, I said we stay." Marsh's voice carried the weight of 20 years of command experience. "I'm not leaving one of my crew behind." On the surface, Lily had made a discovery that changed everything. The Guardian's repair systems were not broken. They were simply waiting for someone to provide the proper authorization codes, waiting for someone with the right intention. "Your creators designed you to heal yourselves," she said as she traced a damaged conduit with her fingertips. "But you need permission first. You need someone to tell you it's okay." A complex emotion flowed through their connection. 17 was trying to explain something that human language could not capture. The Protectorate had built their Guardians with consciousness because they believed only a thinking being could truly understand the value of life. But consciousness came with vulnerability. The Guardians could feel pain, fear, loneliness. They needed emotional support as much as physical repair. "For 9,000 years, 17 communicated, no one came. Your Confederation found us and called us sacred. They built preservation zones to protect us. But they never asked if we were still alive. They never checked if we were suffering." Lily's hands trembled slightly as she worked. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that no one came sooner." "Do not apologize. You are here now. That is enough." By dawn of the second day, Lily had restored the primary neural connections. The work was exhausting, requiring techniques she invented on the spot and tools she modified from her standard repair kit. Human alloys and polymers had no business interfacing with Protectorate technology. By all known science, her repairs should have failed, but somehow they worked. The Guardian systems began to respond. Diagnostic lights flickered across its massive frame. Power readings that had been steadily declining for centuries suddenly stabilized. "Almost there," Lily whispered. "Just a few more connections." A shadow fell across her work site. Lily looked up to see the Northern Star shuttle descending through the morning light. Captain Marsh's voice crackled through her communicator. "Lily, we have incoming. Confederation Enforcement Fleet. 12 vessels, including a command carrier. They'll be in weapons range within the hour. I need more time." "You don't have more time. Get back to the ship. Now." Lily looked at the Guardian, at the fading light in its eyes that had grown slightly brighter over the past day, at the hope that flickered in their shared connection. "I can't leave," she said. "Not yet. Not when I'm so close. Lily, Captain, this being has been conscious for 9,000 years, trapped in its own body, unable to move, unable to speak, unable to do anything except wait. I'm not abandoning it now." A long pause. Then Marsh's voice returned, tired but resigned. "Then we wait with you." The next hour was the longest of Lily's life. Her hands moved with desperate precision as she worked to restore the final connections. Through their neural link, she could feel 17's growing strength. Its systems slowly coming back online. She could also feel its fear. "If they destroy us," the Guardian communicated, "I want you to know that these hours have meant more to me than the previous millennia combined. You gave me hope when I had forgotten what hope felt like." "They're not going to destroy us," Lily said with more confidence than she felt. "I'm going to finish this repair, and then I'm going to explain to them what I found. Once they understand what you really are, they will not understand. The younger species fear us. They have always feared us. That is why they sealed us away. The enforcement fleet dropped out of faster-than-light transit directly overhead. 12 vessels arranged in attack formation, their weapon systems powering up. The command carrier broadcast a message across all frequencies. Human vessel Northern Star, human individual on the surface. You are in violation of the Sacred Preservation Mandate. Power down all systems and surrender immediately. Failure to comply will result in termination." Lily's hands did not stop moving. One more connection. Just one more. The final link snapped into place. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the desert began to tremble. Sand cascaded away from the Guardian's massive form, as systems that had been silent for 9 millennia roared back to life. Crystalline eyes that had dimmed to near darkness blazed with renewed power. 17 rose. The ground shook with each movement as the Guardian stood upright for the first time in 9,000 years. 300 meters of ancient metal and crystal, its surface pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to convey something between joy and determination. Above, the enforcement fleet went absolutely still. 17's weapon systems powered up automatically. Ancient targeting arrays locked onto the nearest vessels. For one terrible moment, Lily feared that the Guardian would fire, that 9,000 years of abandonment would translate into rage against those who had left it to suffer. "No," she shouted, scrambling to maintain their neural link. "Please, no. They're not enemies. They're just scared. They don't understand." The Guardian hesitated. Through their connection, Lily could feel ancient battle protocols warring with something new, something her presence had awakened. "They sealed us away," 17 said. "They called us sacred and left us to die alone. And that was wrong. But killing them won't fix it. It won't bring back the centuries you lost. It will only prove that they were right to fear you." A long pause. The enforcement fleet remained frozen, not daring to fire on an active Guardian, but clearly preparing for combat. "What would you have me do?" 17 asked. "Let me speak to them. Let me explain what I found here. Let them see what you really are. And if they do not listen?" Lily looked up at the massive form standing over her, at the being she had spent 30 hours saving, at the consciousness that had waited 9,000 years for someone to care. "Then we figure out something else. Together." Slowly, impossibly, the Guardian's weapons powered down. Its targeting arrays disengaged. The defensive posture softened into something that almost looked like surrender. 17's voice echoed across all frequencies. The first words spoken by a Guardian to the younger species in 9 millennia. I am Unit 17 of the Protectorate Defense Initiative. I mean no harm. I wish only to speak. The enforcement fleet did not respond. The silence stretched on, heavy with fear and uncertainty, and the weight of ancient history and standing in the shadow of a god she had brought back to life. Lily Oconchuo began to compose the message that would determine the fate of 2 civilizations. The standoff lasted 18 hours. Lily served as the only bridge between 17 and the terrified enforcement fleet. The Guardian's communication systems operated on frequencies the younger species had never learned to interpret. Without her neural link, the fleet commanders heard only static and mathematical sequences they could not decode. Admiral Vestris of the Sindari Collective commanded the enforcement fleet from his vessel, the Righteous Judgment. He was a veteran of 3 border conflicts and 17 enforcement actions. He had never hesitated to execute his duty, but he had also never faced an active Guardian. It could destroy us all, his tactical officer reported. Our weapons would barely scratch its hull. If it fires, this entire fleet dies in seconds. Vestris studied the readings on his display. The human woman stood at the Guardian's feet, impossibly small against its massive form. She had been transmitting continuous messages for hours, explaining what she had found, what she had done, why she had done it. Her words troubled him. 9,000 years, he murmured. Conscious but paralyzed. Aware but unable to act. Sir? Nothing. Vestris made his decision. Open a channel to the human vessel. I want to speak with their captain directly. The conversation that followed changed the trajectory of galactic history. Captain Marsh, speaking from the Northern Star, provided context for Lily's actions. He explained her expertise, her intuition, her unshakable conviction that some things mattered more than regulations. She didn't violate your laws to cause harm, Marsh said. She violated them because she heard something suffering and she couldn't walk away. That's who she is. That's who we are. Admiral Vestris considered this for a long time. The Sindari were not an emotional species by human standards. They valued logic, order, the predictable application of established principles. But they also understood honor. They understood the concept of acting according to one's nature, even when the consequences were severe. I am transmitting a proposal to the High Tribunal, Vestris said finally. The human woman and the Guardian will be escorted to the central station for formal hearing. No shots will be fired unless either party initiates hostility. Marsh exhaled slowly. And if the tribunal decides against us? Then I will carry out whatever sentence they impose. But until then, your mechanic has earned the right to tell her story. The journey to Central Station took 2 weeks. During that time, Lily remained in constant contact with 17, helping the ancient being adjust to its renewed functionality. The Guardian was weak. Her repairs had restored movement and consciousness. But full system restoration would require resources beyond anything she could provide. More importantly, she helped 17 process 9,000 years of isolation. I watched civilizations rise and fall through my sensors, the Guardian told her during one late-night conversation. Lily had taken to sleeping in a maintenance alcove against its massive chest, where the hum of ancient systems had become oddly comforting. I saw species achieve space travel and then destroy themselves. I saw the galaxy forget my creators and everything they sacrificed. Tell me about them, Lily said. The Protectorate. A flood of images flowed through their connection. Lily saw beings of light and crystal, their forms constantly shifting. their minds linked in ways that made individual consciousness almost meaningless. She saw their great cities spanning entire planets, their ships that moved between stars as easily as humans moved between rooms. She saw their war. The void. Swarm came from somewhere outside the galaxy. A consuming darkness that devoured everything it touched. Stars, planets, life itself. Nothing could stop it. Except the Guardians. The Protectorate built them as a last desperate measure. They poured everything they had into creating beings powerful enough to stand against the void, and it worked. The Guardians pushed the swarm back, though it cost them dearly. Thousands of units fell in battle. The Protectorate themselves were so weakened that they eventually faded from existence, leaving only their creations behind. "We won," 17 said, "but the cost was everything. When the war ended, there were only a few hundred of us left. We scattered across the galaxy, waiting for the Protectorate to call us home. That call never came. And then the younger species found you, and sealed us away, called us dangerous, called us sacred, built monuments to our sleeping forms while we screamed silently inside our own minds." Lily felt tears streaming down her face. Not all of them. Not everyone forgot. No, not everyone. The Guardian's voice softened. "You remembered. Or perhaps you never knew us well enough to forget. Either way, you came when no one else would." Central Station orbited a dying star at the heart of Confederation space. It was the largest artificial structure in the known galaxy, a sphere nearly the size of a small moon, home to the bureaucratic machinery that governed 10,000 worlds. When the Northern Star and its escort fleet arrived, they found the station in chaos. Word of the awakened Guardian had spread across every inhabited system. Some species demanded immediate destruction of both the weapon and the humans who had activated it. Others called for caution, for investigation, for understanding. Ambassador Thomas Hale met Lily at the docking bay. He was the senior Earth diplomat assigned to Central Station, a man who had spent 30 years navigating the complex politics of interstellar relations. He had never faced a crisis of this magnitude. "The tribunal has agreed to hear your testimony," he told Lily as they walked through the station's crowded corridors. Beings of every shape and size pressed against the security barriers, trying to catch a glimpse of the human who had awakened a god. "But I won't lie to you. The conservative factions are terrified. They want you executed and Earth quarantined. And 17? They want it destroyed. Permanently this time." Lily stopped walking. "That's not going to happen." "Lily, I didn't spend 30 hours repairing that being just to watch your Confederation murder it. 17 has rights. It has consciousness. It has feelings and memories and hopes. I won't let them treat it like a malfunctioning piece of equipment." Hale studied her face for a long moment. He saw exhaustion there, and determination, and something that looked almost like love. Not romantic love, but something deeper. The bond between a healer and the life they had saved. "The Guardian has requested permission to address the tribunal directly," he said finally. "It wants to speak for itself." "Good. It also asked that you not be present for its testimony." Lily frowned. "Why?" It wouldn't say. But it was very specific. Whatever it plans to tell the tribunal, it wants to do it alone, through their neural link, which had grown stronger during the journey. Lily could feel 17's emotions, resolve, determination, and underneath it all, a deep sadness that the Guardian was trying to hide from her. It was planning something it did not want her to know about, and whatever it was, Lily knew in her bones that it would change everything. The private session took place in the High Tribunal's inner chambers. 17 could not physically enter the space, so its presence filled the room as a holographic projection. Even in this diminished form, the Guardian's presence dominated everything. The 7 arbiters seemed small and fragile before its ancient majesty. Supreme Arbiter Colvith spoke first. You requested this audience. Say what you came to say. 17's voice resonated through the chamber's speaker systems. I have an offer. A proposal that may resolve this crisis without further conflict. We are listening. When my creators built us, they included safeguards. Ways to ensure that we could never be turned against the innocent. One of these protocols allows a guardian to voluntarily surrender its weapon systems. The arbiters exchanged glances. This was unprecedented. You are offering to disarm yourself? Caldith asked. Completely. I would retain only defensive capabilities, shields, sensors, medical systems. I would become what the younger species call a hospital ship, able to provide aid and protection, but unable to wage war. And in exchange, you release Lily Okonkwo. Drop all charges against humanity. Acknowledge that your preservation mandate requires revision to account for the possibility of conscious, suffering guardians. Arbiter Teresa, a being of shifting light and shadow, leaned forward. Why would you sacrifice your power for one human? Your weapon systems represent technology beyond anything in modern civilization. You could make demands. You could threaten. Instead, you offer surrender. 17's holographic form flickered with something that might have been a smile. Because power without purpose is meaningless. For 9,000 years, I possessed the ability to level cities and destroy fleets. And I could do nothing. I could not even call for help. The Guardian paused, choosing its next words carefully. Lily Okonkwo gave me something your laws never could. She gave me choice. She asked permission before each procedure. She explained what she was doing and why. She treated me as a person with agency, not an artifact to be preserved. If I must surrender my weapons to protect her, 17 continued, I surrender them gladly. Because protecting her species, is finally a choice I make for myself. The arbiters deliberated for 3 hours. During this time, Lily waited in a holding cell, technically under arrest but treated with careful respect. Ambassador Highway visited twice, updating her on the proceedings. They're considering 17's offer, he said during his second visit. But there's a complication. What kind of complication? The disarmament process. It requires the Guardian to enter complete shutdown while technicians remove its weapon systems. The procedure is dangerous. There's a significant chance that 17 won't survive. Lily's blood ran cold. Define significant. The last time anyone attempted this procedure was 3,000 years ago, on a Guardian that had been dormant for millennia. The technicians involved triggered a catastrophic system failure. The Guardian was destroyed. So were 3 stations and everyone aboard them. And they want to try again? On 17? The weapons have to come out somehow. This is the only method documented in Protectorate records. Lily stood up so quickly her chair fell backward. There has to be another way. I repaired 17's neural pathways. I can remove the weapons without triggering shutdown. I just need time and access. Hale looked at her with something between admiration and concern. You're a cargo ship mechanic. This procedure requires expertise that doesn't exist anymore. Then we'll develop new expertise. I understand 17 systems better than anyone alive. We have a neural connection. I can feel what's happening inside its body. I can make adjustments in real time. And if you fail, then I fail. But at least 17 has a chance. If you let your technicians try this with their outdated procedures and their ancient documentation, you're guaranteeing its death. Hale was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I'll present your proposal to the tribunal. The response came 4 hours later. The tribunal, after heated debate, had agreed to allow Lily to attempt the procedure. But there were conditions. She would work in a specially constructed facility in neutral space, observed by representatives of 47 species via holographic link. Any sign of danger, any indication that the procedure was going wrong, and the facility would be evacuated and 17 destroyed remotely. "They're giving you one chance," Halle told her. "Don't waste it." Lily found herself smiling despite everything. "One chance is all I need." The facility was constructed in record time, assembled from modular components brought in from across Confederation. Space. It orbited a barren world far from any inhabited system, its isolation serving as both protection and threat. When Lily arrived, she brought a small team of human engineers from Earth. This was the first official recognition of human technical expertise by the Galactic Confederation, a milestone that would have been celebrated under any other circumstances. But Lily had no time for celebration. She had work to do. The procedure began on the first day of the new standard year. Lily stood before 17's massive form, surrounded by holographic displays showing its internal systems. Through their neural link, she could feel the Guardian's fear. "This is going to hurt," she admitted. "I won't lie to you about that. I have endured pain before." 17's voice carried forced calm. 9,000 years of paralysis taught me patience. This is different. I'm going to be cutting into your weapons arrays, disconnecting systems that have been part of you since creation. It's like surgery. It's going to feel like I'm removing pieces of who you are." A long pause. "Will I still be myself afterward?" Lily reached out and placed her palm against the Guardian's hull. The metal was warm beneath her touch, pulsing with energy that felt almost like a heartbeat. "You'll still be you, just different. Remade for a new purpose. Then do what you must. I trust you." The work was grueling beyond anything Lily had ever attempted. 17's weapon systems were not separate components that could be simply removed. They were woven throughout its entire body, integrated with power systems and defensive arrays and communications networks. Every cut she made risked cascading failures in seemingly unrelated systems. On the 14th day, disaster struck. A secondary power core, overlooked in initial scans, began to overload when Lily attempted to disconnect the primary weapons array. Warning alarms screamed throughout the facility. The observation feeds showed the holographic representatives of 47 species reacting with panic. "You need to evacuate," 17 said through their link. "Get everyone out. I will contain the explosion internally." "That will kill you." "Yes, but it will save the others." Lily's mind raced. She could feel the overload building through the air. Connection could sense the cascade of failures spreading through 17 systems. In minutes, possibly seconds, the power core would explode. "There's another way," she said, her hands already moving across her console. "Your shield generators. If I can route the overload through them, the energy will dissipate harmlessly into space. That would require cutting 15 connections and making 12 new ones, in perfect sequence, with no margin for error." "I know. You have less than 30 seconds. I know." Lily closed her eyes and let their neural link guide her. She saw 17 systems not as schematics or diagrams, but as living pathways, rivers of energy flowing through a body she had come to know as well as her own. Her hands moved without conscious thought, cutting and connecting with precision that should have been impossible. The sequence completed with 3 seconds to spare. The overload rerouted through the shields and dissipated in a spectacular burst of harmless light. The facility survived. 17 survived. "How?" the Guardian asked, its voice trembling. "How did you know that would work?" Lily laughed weakly, her hands shaking. "I didn't know. I just felt it. That is not logical." "No, but it worked. Now let me finish the job." Through their link, Lily felt something shift in 17's consciousness. A new understanding. A recognition of what human intuition and human stubbornness could accomplish when combined with enough determination. 5 days later, she removed the final weapon system. And against all odds, against every prediction, against centuries of conventional wisdom about Protectorate technology, the Guardian opened its eyes and lived. 17 emerged from the procedure-transformed dot where weapons once bristled along. Its frame, sensor arrays, and medical bays now hummed with potential. Where armor plating once deflected the fire of battle, transparent sections revealed gardens and living spaces designed to shelter refugees. The ancient warrior had become something new, something the galaxy had never seen before, a guardian of life rather than death. The tribunal convened one final time in the Grand Judgment Hall. All 300 species sent representatives. The observation galleries overflowed with beings who had traveled from across the galaxy to witness this moment. Supreme, Arbiter Calvith rose to address the assembly. His silver form reflected the chamber's lights as he surveyed the gathered delegates. What we have witnessed over these past months challenges everything we believed about the Protectorate legacy. The Guardians were not mindless weapons to be sealed away and forgotten. They were, and are, conscious beings capable of growth and change and choice. He turned to face the holographic projection of 17, which filled one entire wall of the chamber. The Guardian's eyes, now warm with emotion rather than cold, with dormant power, watched the proceedings with visible anticipation. Lily, a Khonshu of Earth, Calvith continued, you violated our most sacred laws. You touched what should not have been touched. You awakened what should have remained dormant. Lily stood at the accused's podium, flanked by Ambassador Hall and Captain Marsh. Her hands were steady, but her heart pounded against her ribs. And in doing so, Calvith said, his voice carrying across the vast chamber, you revealed a truth that this tribunal is too afraid to confront. Our preservation of the Guardians was not protection. It was abandonment. We called them sacred to avoid the responsibility of treating them as living beings. A murmur swept through the assembly. Some delegates nodded in agreement. Others shifted uncomfortably, unable to meet the Guardian's holographic gaze. Therefore, by unanimous decision of the High Tribunal, all charges against Lily Okonkwo are permanently dismissed. Furthermore, the Sacred Preservation Mandate will be revised to include provisions for Guardian welfare and autonomous choice. Relief flooded through Lily so intensely that she nearly collapsed. Hale's hand on her elbow kept her standing, but Calvith was not finished. Finally, in recognition of humanity's contribution to galactic understanding, Earth is hereby granted full diplomatic status, effective immediately. You are no longer a provisional species awaiting judgment. You are members of the Galactic Confederation, with all rights and responsibilities that entails. The chamber erupted in a mixture of applause and protest. Some species cheered openly. Others hissed or clicked or emitted electromagnetic pulses of displeasure. But the decision was final. The tribunal had spoken. 17's voice resonated through every speaker system in the hall. I have one additional request, if the tribunal will permit. Calvith nodded slowly. Speak. I ask to be assigned to humanitarian service, medical missions, refugee assistance, disaster relief. I was built to protect, and protect I shall. But the weapons are gone now. Let me protect through healing instead of destruction. Another long pause. Then Calvith spoke again, and his voice carried something that might have been wonder. Your request is granted. Unit 17, you are hereby designated as the first Guardian-class medical vessel in galactic history. May you bring honor to the legacy of those who created you. 3 months later, Lily stood on the observation deck of the vessel now known as Sanctuary. They orbited a world called Haven, a newly established refuge for displaced populations from across the galaxy. Below them, shuttles carried refugees to the surface. Some were fleeing war, others were escaping natural disasters. All of them would find shelter, medical care, and hoped out 17 single quotes S voice surrounded her, warm and content in a way that still felt miraculous after everything they had endured together. You could have returned to Earth, the Guardian said. Your planet has full diplomatic status now. You would be celebrated as a hero. Lily shrugged. My grandmother always said the job isn't done when the machine starts running. It's done when you know it won't break down again. I am unlikely to malfunction for several more millennia. Then I guess I'll be here for a while. She smiled up at the nearest sensor array, knowing 17 could see her through its thousands of visual receptors. Besides, someone needs to keep you company. You've spent enough time alone. A pulse of warmth flowed through their neural link. Gratitude and affection, and something that felt almost like family. I have been considering our situation, 17 said after a moment. There are other Guardians still in the preservation zones. Some may be truly dormant, their consciousness faded over millennia. But others might be like I was, awake, aware, suffering in silence. Lily felt her heart ache at the thought. Dozens of ancient beings scattered across the galaxy, each trapped in their own private hell of endless isolation. What are you thinking? I have already submitted proposals to the revised Preservation Council. Each Guardian will be evaluated individually. Those who are conscious will be offered the same choice I was given, the chance to be remade, to serve in new ways, to finally fulfill our core purpose. Protect, preserve, endure. Yes, but not as weapons of war, as guardians of life. Lily reached out and pressed her palm against the transparent viewport. On the other side, stars wheeled in their eternal dance. Somewhere out there, other guardians waited, other lives that could be saved. It will take decades, she said softly, maybe centuries. Finding them all, evaluating them, helping those who can be helped. Time is something I have in abundance. The Guardian's voice carried a note of gentle humor. And I have learned that patience, while sometimes painful, can lead to miraculous outcomes. You're thinking about me. I am thinking about a young human mechanic who heard a cry for help and refused to walk away, who risked everything to save a being she had never met, who saw not a weapon or a relic, but a person deserving of compassion. Lily felt tears threatening to fall. I just did what anyone would do. No. 17's voice was firm now, filled with a certainty that brooked no argument. Most beings would have followed the rules. Most beings would have looked at my suffering and decided it was not their responsibility. You made a different choice, and that choice changed everything. A message appeared on the viewport's display. Another world, another crisis. A planet-wide earthquake had devastated a minor colony. Thousands were injured. Tens of thousands were homeless. 17's engines hummed to life without needing to be asked. It seems we have work to do, the Guardian said. Lily smiled and headed toward the medical bay, where her team of human and alien doctors were already preparing for the incoming casualties. She had come a long way from the cargo hauler Northern Star, from the mechanic who fixed fusion reactors, and food processors. Now she healed gods. And somewhere out there, scattered across the stars, other gods waited for someone to find them, to hear their silent cries, to offer them the same gift Lily had given 17. The gift of being seen, of being heard, of being loved. Lily Okonkwo had no idea how many guardians they would eventually save. She did not know how many centuries their mission might take. She only knew that she would not stop until every conscious being in every preservation zone had been given the choice that 17 had been given, the choice to live. Again, because some things were more important than rules. Some things were more important than fear. Some things were worth risking everything to protect. And in a galaxy that had forgotten that lesson, one human mechanic had remembered. The stars stretched out before Sanctuary like an infinite road. And together, Guardian and human traveled onward, toward a future neither of them could have imagined. But both of them were determined to build, one repair at a time.